Welcome to the Jeff and Heidi Show. We're glad to have you with us again. I'm here with my co-host, Heidi Anderson, and today we're excited to have Dave Olsen with us. Dave and I go back quite a ways, and we've got a lot of things we could share, and I'm just excited because Dave has done some amazing things in his career. He's done some amazing things to help my career, and I'm just excited to start this conversation. So maybe, Dave, I'll let you kind of start it out by introducing who you are and tell a little bit about yourself, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Okay, sounds good. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite. So going back quite a few years, I grew up in Alberta, Canada, close to where Jeff grew up, and that's how we got to know each other. I went to school at BYU and got my degree in information systems. And after that, got my master's in accounting. And so my career kind of has had the pattern of the intersection of technology and accounting and business, which is really where my passion is. I started out with a big international public accounting firm, and then jumped off there to become the CFO of a startup company. And that started my journey of working in finance and technology with mostly small businesses. So I was a CFO of one company, and that's about a year later, that's where Jeff and I connected, is where I became the CFO of the company that he ran and runs, Kodiak Mountain Stone. And from there, I saw that I loved small business, I loved finance, I loved technology and all that. But with the startup company, being the CFO wasn't really a full-time job. And so I realized, and this was a few months into Kodiak, that I could be the CFO and the bookkeeper and the office manager and a delivery guy and whatever else could come. Or
you worked in the factory too sometimes.
Worked in the factory. I remembered pulling a big trailer and making deliveries of stone, and so definitely got a wide range of experience, which was awesome. I loved being involved in all aspects of the business, but I really wanted to focus on the CFO part of it. And is a little bit into Kodiak, where a friend of mine needed help with his business. He was losing his accountant, and he just wanted some help, really more of an interim CFO to help him find a new accountant and help him with some of the things he needed. And that's when I realized that I could still accomplish everything that Kodiak needed for me, but I could also kind of leverage my time and the experience that I gained in helping another company. So I split my time for a while and realized, hey, I really like the variety of this. And another company came along. So I was the CFO of 3 companies, and a venture capital fund came along, and I became the CFO of the venture capital fund and some of its portfolio companies. And it took probably about 7 years into the experience, but I realized it kind of looked like a business. I didn't really intend to start a business. I was just loving serving small businesses as the CFO. So it was about 2015 and I kind of also dabbled in hiring kind of just part-time help, because these were all small companies. I was pretty much handling everything related to the finance. So I'd hire part-time bookkeepers to get some of the work done, and that was working great. But again, I didn't see myself as building a business. But really in 2015, I saw that the model that I'd developed and kind of evolved into unintentionally really worked well. I was serving several different companies across Canada and the US, and I was doing it from one location. I realized that technology had come a long way, where there's all these tools that allow us to work in the cloud, in accounting and bill payments and payroll and all that. You didn't have to be in one office. And so it was 2015 that I started building a team, started branching out and looking for more clients. And really that's evolved over the last 5 years, I guess, into what Nimbl is today. At that point, I didn't really have any branding. I wasn't, again, looking to build a big business. It just kind of evolved. So looking back today, 5 years later, we have about 40 employees worldwide and quite a number of clients. And we provide outsourced accounting, CFO, bookkeeping, tax, payroll, all that kind of stuff for small businesses. Most of our clients are anywhere from startup to about 10 million in revenue is where our sweet spot is. We have some clients north of 20, 30 million. And we also, part of building the team was building an office in the Philippines, where we have a office of bookkeepers that handle a lot of the day-to-day work, and realized that really allowed us to scale by giving us ready access to great talent. The talent was kind of hard to find in North America, and realized that talent we found there would also be useful for other firms. And so about half of our team in the Philippines is actually staffed full-time with mostly other accounting firms. And so we kind of have two business lines, serving our own clients and also staffing full-time Philippines bookkeepers with other firms and other companies who need that help. So that's a brief history of how I got to where I am today.
Well, it sounds like you were kind of on the cutting edge of what has now become a kind of a popular thing, a little bit, like being a CFO to go, so to speak, because so many small businesses need that, but can't afford somebody full time. And so it's really great that you were able to figure out how to leverage that and bring in outsourcing to make it probably even more affordable for the small businesses that you serve.
Yeah, that's one thing I discovered early on, is it's hard to find, with a small business, it's hard to find the right accounting talent. Either you're overpaying for a CFO who really knows what they're doing, but again, it has to be the delivery guy and the bookkeeper at the same time, or you're underpaying for a part-time bookkeeper who really can make a mess, and I've seen a few messes. So really, the model that we evolved into is providing that full accounting team from the CFO down to bookkeeper, but you're only paying for a fraction of what you need. And it's really been a great model and helped a lot of small businesses.
And I think, that's where we got lucky at Kodiak Mountain Stone, because you came in as the CFO, the bookkeeper, the driver, the factory worker, the everything. And we were lucky there, but you're exactly right. We weren't in a position that we could hire or needed a full-time CFO. But at the same time, at a startup stage, you look at those things and kind of think, well, maybe I don't need those. But one thing within Kodiak Mountain Stone that we saw very quickly was when Dave came in and he started putting in systems and processes, both on our sales side and on our manufacturing side, how fast we saw a return on that and how fast we saw things change for us. And especially in the production side, we measured everything, cost per square foot on everything from labor to product, whatever. And I remember after probably about 6 months looking at those graphs and looking at those numbers and how fast Dave was able to put things in place and make a difference. And I think that's one thing startups really need to be aware of, is the value of having someone like Dave come in to do something like that. And where what he's doing now is such a different system. You don't have to be able to afford a full-time CFO to do something like that. You can have him come in with the company he's got now, and you're not paying for CFO to be doing all these things. And when they don't have work, you're saying, hey, will you go run some deliveries?
Yeah, we see that in a lot of our clients where, when we have other CFO level people on our team, and people think they need a CFO, and what they really need is maybe an hour a month or an hour a week or something of CFO work. And so we can place a bookkeeper that's spending the 10, 20 hours a week or whatever it takes to get all the day-to-day stuff done. And then all it takes is just a little bit of time for the CFO to oversee that work and then to work on those higher level projects. Like for me, I remember back with Kodiak and looking at labor costs, really to understand where labor costs were at, to put in a system to track it and work on improvements. It really didn't take a whole lot of time. But like you said, it was a huge impact just by putting in that process.
Well, it's probably something that didn't take you a lot of time, but would have probably taken somebody who doesn't have your experience a lot of time. So I think that's like where Jeff said it, the value really comes in. Is, so many entrepreneurs, and I myself included, you're wearing all the hats, and it's like, oh, we can't really afford to pay somebody else to do that, so I've got to learn how to do this, and you end up doing it, and you don't realize, well, maybe if I just brought somebody in, for just to take a look at things for an hour or two or something, and they might see things, like you said, that more than pay for the time that they spend there. So it's definitely a valuable service.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really think too, when an entrepreneur looks at something like that, and just like you're saying, Heidi, they're looking at it saying, I can't afford a full-time CFO, so I've got to do that. But now with a service like what Nimbl offers, they can go in and say, okay, I'm going to pay this. They're going to do a better job than I was doing. But more importantly, I can focus on my business, not running the accounting side or running the CFO side. I can focus on my business. So I think that's huge. So Dave, tell us who is your ideal client?
So ideal is somewhere between 1 and 10 million in revenue, typically. And the industry doesn't matter too much. A lot of businesses in the background operate very similarly. And we have companies in construction, in retail, e-commerce, SaaS software. So it really doesn't matter too much. But between 1 and 10 million, it's best when we actually become the accounting department. So it doesn't work as well when there's an in-house accounting department and we're kind of supplementing it, or that we prefer to become the accounting department. And that way companies don't have to hire their own accounting team or anything like that. We just become that for them. And also those who trust us. We like business owners who recognize that even if they could figure it out, they don't need to, and they just let us. We want to be a partner. We want to keep informed and obviously act in their direction, but we want them to trust us to put in the systems that work best, to put in the software that we have experience with and that we have vetted over years. And so the systems and processes and the way we do things, as long as the outcome is what they're looking for, we prefer to just let us be the experts and put those in place. So that's really what it comes down to. But it's pretty broad. I mean, you think of how many businesses are between 1 and 10 million, and I say 1 and 10. We also have many startups and many smaller businesses that are less than $1 million. But yeah, it's pretty broad demographic. There's a huge need out there.
I love how you said a couple of times when you were talking about how you got started that you weren't really planning on starting a business. But you really were, but yet you kind of became the accidental entrepreneur or whatever. But what were some of the biggest challenges scaling up like that? Because you really did. You went from kind of just you to, it sounds like, a pretty big operation.
Yeah, really just a little over 2 years ago, it was me and between 3 and 5 bookkeepers, somewhere around there. And I was really the only client contact. And so within 2 years, we went up to 40 employees and several times the number of clients. So probably the biggest challenge is scaling a service is hard. It's one thing to create a product and say you figure out how to manufacture stone and you just replicate the same thing over and over again and you sell it. Or software, you create software that the incremental cost of bringing on new customers is pretty small. There's some support and some server costs and that kind of thing, but really it's easy to scale. But with the service, the hardest part was taking the way I serve clients and the way I felt they should be served, and to then hire people and train them to serve them in the same way. And not just train them, but to have consistent processes and systems. And I've always been someone who sees the importance of documentation and creating the process, but when I'm doing it on my own, it's easy to skip over things that are just in my head that I think are obvious, or think that I just don't think about documenting for someone else. So just really being thorough with documentation and training and trying to create that consistent experience across clients has been and continues to be a challenge. And it's not that the people aren't capable, it's just the communication, the coordination, the training that to provide that consistency is challenging.
And I guess one other thing, talking about your ideal client, you talked about demographics, all those different things. I guess you've kind of mentioned on it, but just to make sure anyone listening to this that's clear, talk about geographic as well.
Yeah, geographic that's the great thing about technology today, and even more so in the last couple of months, as people are discovering that location really doesn't matter. We have clients in, I forget our count now, I think we have clients in 35 states, and serving someone in Utah down the street, and we have a client in Florida. It really makes no difference whatsoever. So that's the nice thing about Zoom and cloud technology and all that. Geography doesn't matter.
And you are certified as a CPA in both Canada and the US.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So did you have something, Heidi?
No, I was just going to say, but you also, I was going to say, that you do serve Canada as well. And so that's got to be great, because I know there's a lot of companies that overlap. They have companies on both sides of the border, and you can probably help them a lot with everything that would be involved in that, from the exchange rates and currency conversion and everything else.
Yeah, that's really what we focus on. I don't think that I can think of we have any clients that are just in Canada. It's more US, and then the US crossover with Canada is where we specialize.
Olsen Construction.
Oh yeah, there you go. Forgot about that one.
What's that?
My family's company.
Oh, okay. It's funny. My maiden name is actually Olsen, spelled Olsen. So maybe we're related somewhere along the way.
Very well could be.
But no. And so, how did you create the place in the Philippines? Like, did you have contacts down there? How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, really good question. And that was, again, part of the evolution of really not being intentional about, what it looked like today. But it was probably, I remember the history, 2011, 2012, I was gaining more CFO clients and looking for ways just to get the bookkeeping done. And because I didn't see myself as building a business, and I didn't want to, say, for example, hire a full-time local employee and make that commitment when I didn't really know what the workload was going to be or how consistent and all that. So all I was doing was just trying to find some way to get the work done. And I'd heard about outsourcing overseas. So I actually experimented with several different places. I went to, I think it was called Elance at the time. I think it's Upwork now.
Yeah.
So I went to Elance, and I found, I think it was a CPA firm in India. And I worked with them for a little while. And then I had a specialized need, so I went back on. I found someone in Pakistan. And that worked great. And it really allowed me to experiment with that model of using overseas bookkeepers and work with the language difference and the time difference and all that. But somewhere along the way, I learned about the Philippines and learned about their English skills. They grew up speaking English, very much immersed in North American culture, and also very honest, very reliable. And so there's a specific job board that is geared towards the Philippines. So I went, I think it was 2015, right when I was starting to build my, kind of expand my service more. I went to this job board and found one person in the Philippines, actually two people. And when I needed a third person, I approached one of these people and asked if they know of anybody else that I could hire. And she said, well, what would you think about me just, so I've got a little bit of office space here. What would you think about me just hiring someone for you? So okay, that sounds great to me. I don't need to do the search. And backing up a little bit, I had a little bit of turnover. So I had two people at the time, but I think there's two other people that I hired, and one of them was going to have a baby, and which is fine. I had no issue with that whatsoever. But she told me one day and was done the next day. It was like no transition, no help, nothing. It was just, I'm done. And then someone else just disappeared. So I thought, this isn't really sustainable. If I'm going to build a team and people are going to disappear on short notice after training them, it's not really going to work. So when this person, her name's Kathy, she offered to hire someone for me. I thought, wow, great. She can vet them, she can supervise them, and I can focus on just building the business. And so she hired someone, and that worked great. And next time I needed someone, she hired them. And 30 people later, we have an office in the Philippines. So that's really, really how it evolved. And she proved herself as far as her reliability and finding great people. And over those 5 years, I guess it's been now, we've had very little turnover, just a lot of loyalty.
So she stays there, she manages it for you. She stays over the people. She doesn't just hire them. She actually then manages them and trains them and everything for you.
Yep, exactly. She's like our operations office manager there. So she hires them and supervises. And yeah, so we built an office, and I keep intending to go over there, and I've actually never been there in the last 5 years. I have immediate plans to go as soon as the travel becomes a little easier, but it's been so steady and reliable. I haven't had the immediate need to to even go over there. So.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit more about that too. Of course, with your CFO services with Nimbl and stuff, and you've got them as your back office, but you had also mentioned that that's another service that you offer, that you've got some other accounting firms that are using your staff and stuff. So who is your client base there? Who's your ideal client? Like if it's, sorry, my Siri keeps jumping on here. If it's someone that isn't looking for CFO service, but they have that need, tell us more about that, how that fit is and who you're looking for there and who you can help there.
Yeah, that service, it was born out of my experience in the beginning of trying to recruit people and retain them, and realize that's a pretty valuable service, is to be able to just to have someone hand it to you and be able to work with them right away, and they've already been vetted and trained and all that. So it actually started with one of our bigger clients. They had and they still have a purchasing and inventory, or mostly a purchasing process where their team was doing it in-house. It crossed over with accounting, but it wasn't what we were doing for them. But they had their own team. They had a huge volume of projects they were doing, and they were purchasing and ordering products from all different places and tracking the orders and getting them on the job site. And they knew that I had, it was Kathy at the time, working on the bookkeeping for their account. And they asked me, we'd love to, this is, work that is administrative, it could be easily done anywhere. Do you have any resources that we could use for our purchasing process? And so we had Kathy hire 3 people full-time to run their purchasing process. And that worked great. And then they had a sister company that had a similar process. And so we hired 3 more people just full-time for them. And they loved it. They loved having the help. We worked great for us. We already had the office and the infrastructure. And then probably a couple of years ago, had an accounting firm approach us and heard that we had this model, we had this office in the Philippines, and they asked, can we just use someone? I thought, well, I never thought about that, but I guess, sure, why not? So we hired someone just for that and realized, hey, that's an awesome model. And so over the last 2 years, we've just kind of by word of mouth, we haven't really intentionally grown it very fast at this point, even though our plan for this year is to really put some attention into growing it. We have quite a few firms, and probably about half our office is now staffed full time. So to go back to your question, the target would be firms similar to ours, where they have the accounting processes that need people to do the bookkeeping and some of the routine day-to-day processes. And then any company that has repeatable administrative tasks that can be done anywhere, then it would work great for them, like a purchasing process or data entry or just anything like that. There's lots of benefits. Cost is one, obviously, but that's really not the primary driver. One of the primary is just access to reliable and skilled talent, which can be hard to find here. So.
Awesome. All right. Now I want to shift a little bit. Before we end, I'm going to make sure to have you give all your contact information or where people can find out about Nimbl and stuff like that. So anyone that's listening that realizes this is something they need, they can contact you. But want to shift a little bit and talk a little bit more about the importance on personal development and self-education and stuff like that, how it is to you.
It's everything. I mean, that's, I know we've had a lot of conversations over the years in this area, but yeah, I couldn't have built my business at all without self-education, without just doing a lot of reading. I mean, just as a simple example, the idea to even look overseas for bookkeepers came out of reading. I can't remember where I came across it now, but it was some business magazine or business book, or maybe even the 4-Hour Workweek. I can't remember, but it was in that reading that just that small idea really shaped everything that we've done so far. Yeah, so it's everything. I love my Audible subscription. I max that out, and I often buy more than the two a month that it comes with, and got a shelf full of books behind me, and I'm just always reading and learning. I just couldn't imagine running a business without continually learning.
Do you have a favorite book?
It's usually the one I just read. But I just read, actually, here's my shelf here. Stillness is the Key, I just finished, which is a great book. Essentialism by Greg McEwen. The Hard Thing About Hard Things is probably the best book I've read about actually running the company, by Ben Horowitz. Atomic Habits is the one I'm reading right now. So yeah, lots of favorites, but those are my top of mind right now.
It's actually anytime that I get to a point that I don't have my next book lined up or what I want to listen to next, it's usually, okay, Dave, what have you been listening to? And he's always got a good list for me to jump on. So appreciate that. In fact, time-wise, I'm not going to go into it, but we actually, Dave and I started something within Kodiak Mountain Stone at one point we called our education plan. And it was kind of based around the 20% rule, that Google has, where we would allow our staff 20% of their time to focus on a few of, education pieces. But the big thing about it was we would have someone each month focus on a specific book, and then we'd have a staff meeting where everyone would get on and they would talk about the things that they learned out of that book that were applicable to how we could implement them in our company. But then we would talk also about how they could be implemented just in our daily lives outside of work. And it was really good. We had a lot of success with that. Part of the problem with it was we had such a small staff, it ended up being like asking people to do a meeting over and over. And it kind of, I think, depending on where your desire is on personal education and those sort of things, it got old to some of them. But it was really, I thought, something that was really effective. And at least for Dave and I, we loved it.
like having an internal book club.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was really good. Another thing that I've talked about on some of the podcasts I've been on, and people have asked how I got into coaching. And I know some of the podcasts I've given it by name, but sometimes I said a business partner, but it was Dave that kind of led me that way, because there is always times we'd be sitting in our offices talking about something that we either did good or bad or whatever, something was happening in the company. And we always joked about, we'll add that to our book when we write our book and different things like that. But Dave knew that I wanted to get into coaching at some point. And there was one time he called me and talked to me about it and said, I've got someone I'd like you to meet that has been in the manufacturing industry and now is a successful coach. And after making that introduction for me, that's kind of what spurred me to start doing it. So Dave gets the credit for where I am right now with Kodiak and with my coaching. But I don't know, we are getting closer to our time limit here. So let's just talk about a few things to start wrapping things up. Any other questions you had on what Dave's doing, Heidi?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been really good information, and I think a lot of people will benefit from understanding that they can actually probably reach out to you if they need some help in that area that didn't think they could afford.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've always said about when we started Kodiak, probably my biggest lesson learned in the beginning was you need to have the right numbers guy in place from the beginning, not down the road. And Dave showed that to us right away when he joined us, and how he started to implement things so quickly. But now, especially with how he's structured things and how Nimbl works on how you can do that without hiring a full-time CFO. And so I think really there are so many advantages to what he's doing that he can really have a huge impact on so many companies that didn't think it was something they were able to achieve or be capable of hiring and stuff. So I guess right now, Dave, if you want to share anything else about Nimbl or yourself that you want to, but also anyone that's listening that realizes this might be a really good option for them, whether they're a startup or whether they've been in business for 20 years. How do they find you? How do they get in contact with you and find out more about how it could benefit them?
Sure. Yeah. One thing I'll mention is the cost. If you think about the cost of a full-time CFO or even an experienced accountant, you're going to be, somewhere over 100,000 to maybe 200,000 or 300,000, depending on the experience. And almost all of our clients are within about $500 a month to $3,000 a month. And so a way we describe that is really you're getting a whole accounting team, including a CFO, for less than the cost of a bookkeeper. So it's really the biggest barrier is just people not realizing that this is an option. So yeah, if you want to connect in any way, if you have any, the need for the service or just a book recommendation or anything, feel free to reach out to me. Our website is trustnimbl.com, and Nimbl is Nimbl without an E. So trustnimbl.com, and you should be able to find me pretty easily on LinkedIn as well. Search Dave Olsen Nimbl, Dave Olsen Kodiak, something like that. I'm sure I'll come up. So I'm based out of Salt Lake City.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And I think that's a great point to make there, is just talking about that pricing, because even a lot of people listening might be thinking, yeah, I know it would be cheaper than a CFO, but they probably didn't realize that it's that attainable. So that's great to share that with us too. So appreciate that. And, hopefully anyone listening that realizes this is a service they need, they'll be in touch with you and be able to benefit from what you do have to offer. But thank you. Appreciate you being on with us today. And it's been awesome connecting again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Hope you got a lot out of that episode and you enjoyed it. The next few slides are going to show you how to stay in touch with myself, with Heidi, and our guests. So stay tuned for that. But just to give you a little bit more information about myself and Heidi, we're both entrepreneurs. I'm a business development coach. Love working with entrepreneurs. Please visit my website at jeffheggie.com, JEFFHEGGIE.com, and jeffheggiecoaching.com. You'll be able to find out what we offer there, from the one-on-one coaching to the group coaching and the Inner Circle Mastermind. It's an incredible group of entrepreneurs, big thinkers. Love to have you join us there. So take a look and let me know if I can do anything for you. Now, Heidi, she's a business financial strategist. She works with business owners to create tax-free cash flow, to help save the money on taxes and merchant fees. And you can stay in touch with her at HAnderson@ECIBFS.com, or you can contact her at 855-782-2737. Look forward to hearing from you and look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Thanks.